How do I say it?
I don't know, dude.
Bardem? Javier Bardem?
Javier Bardem?
Bardem?
Yeah.
Bardem?
Bardem. Whatever,
Bardem.
dude. Okay, so today we reviewed Skyfall, the 23rd James Bond movie. It's directed by Sam Mendes, written by Neil Purvis, and starring Daniel Craig, Judi Dench, and Javier Bardem. It has a budget of $200 million and was released on November 9th. So I think one thing that sets this one apart from it, as far as just main premise goes, is that it deals a lot more with like Bond's more personal aspect of his life. You know, it's more about like what you do when you come, to a certain age where you are not necessarily doing things to the best of your abilities, or at least what your abilities used to be.
He's not able to handle all the shit that he used to be able to handle. It's wearing on him psychologically and physically. So the movie starts out with MI6, the agency James Bond works for, being threatened by a security threat that will expose all their undercover operatives.
I guess I'm just going to start off and say that, to me, this was one of the most entertaining, interesting Bond movies that I have seen. The action was pretty spectacular. There was maybe some, a little bit of stuff was, corny and unrealistic, but at the same time, it's a Bond movie, so... But what I liked about this one that made it different was Bond himself was much more of a story about him personally, and all the characters in the movie pretty much serve to kind of enrich this background, or this concept of Skyfall, which obviously I'm not going to reveal, but it definitely has some personal meaning to Bond. The fact that it separated both the action and dialogue so well, whereas the action was well paced, but at the same time there were parts where it could just stop and slow down for a good 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes without action, and just have characters talking, because the dialogue was so great. I think was what really helped.
I guess out of the three newest Bond movies is definitely my favorite. Personally, I'm a Connery fan, so it doesn't really hold up, but that's just my own personal perspectives. But it's a great movie on the same title, and it's really, out of any of the movies I've really seen so far this year, as far as the action genre goes, it's one of the better ones.
Did you see The Dark Knight Rises?
No, I didn't see. Yes, I saw The Dark Knight. Everybody saw The Dark Knight.
Okay, no, well, I was just wondering, because doesn't it remind you a little bit of Batman Begins, or something from that Batman?
Yeah, it definitely had a much, more melancholy kind of emotionally deep story to it.
Yeah, and it seems like they're all these movies now are taking kind of this darker tone.
They like to show the tortured hero, which is interesting. I have to say, the one thing that sold me really on this movie, the one reason why I say this movie is a good movie and not mediocre or ever, really the person that saves the movie is Javier Bardem or whatever, because he made a really, really, really good Bond villain.
It's got some great cinematography.
Yeah,
it's they really turn what might be a more average action scene into something much more artistic. They use their environment to their advantage. You can tell that they they set it out. It's okay, this would be a very cool, visually stunning place for these two guys to have a fight or something.
Here's the thing. As an action movie, I think this movie is great. I think this movie is really good. But as a Bond movie, there's some things missing. For instance, you're going to walk into it expecting there to be the same two common motifs that exist in every James Bond movie. Which is awesome car, hot girl.
Well,
that remains through the entire movie.
There are hot girls.
But there's this one, the James Bond movies have this one hot girl that's with James Bond the entire movie. They introduce her about 20 minutes in, and then they build her up, and then there's some climax of what happens at the very end of the movie with the chick. That's an archetype that's been in every James Bond movie.
And this, there are two very beautiful women, but they're not fleshed out in the slightest.
No, not at all. That's something I think that's missing. I think they tried to take this Bond character and bring him into the same kind of theme that's going on with more new action movies of making him this dark hero, which was an interesting concept, but I feel in some ways it led them to stray away from what makes a Bond movie and kind of in certain aspects, betray the Bond formula, really. And not that that's not a bad thing to do.
I totally understand that, man.
Yeah, and it's not that that makes it a bad movie or anything. It's just that someone who's a Bond fan, specifically as a Bond fan, doesn't want to see them develop Bond anymore. Bond's been developed. I like Bond as a character. I know Bond as a character. I've seen him in 22 other movies. I know who
so
Bond
what you're
is.
saying is that you don't want the formula to change.
Yeah, I don't want to torture.
But I mean, they have done it like 20 times.
Well, yeah, but they've shown different aspects of Bond. They showed Bond get hung up over chicks. They've also showed Bond when he's more like partied out and crazy. And like there's 80s Bond. There's like gnarly, Roger Moore Bond. There's aspects of Bond, but the thing about Bond is he's always got these common things that it's like, it's not like a TV show, but it's like, something that like is common and like makes you familiar. Like, oh, even if this Bond just went from being like Roger Moore to being Sean Connery, to being Pierce Brosnan all of a sudden, they're still the same person because they're exhibiting this thing. I'm not really feeling it so much with Daniel Craig. It's a change from the Bond formula that strays, I think, too far from its roots. I guess I'd probably have to give it an 8. It's a good time. It's not a future classic, but it's a good time. It's definitely going to rule. Like, it's a great movie to see and all that. But I just don't really see it as being like a future classic. At least gives you something to like think about and like put in reference to other things. Whether or not you think it holds up, it's up to your own opinion.
I pretty much liked everything about this movie. It was just my ideal action movie. I really liked it. The visuals were great. It was entertaining. It was gripping. It was intense. It wasn't the most climactic it could have been, but it could have been better. But it was fine for what it was. Overall, I'd say I would give it I'm gonna have to give it just a really high good time. So about like 9.2 or so.